You like swords with your sorcery. Let's talk about fire and ice with Mike and Tom. Time for the first, the last, the Nerdom.
Hey Tom, how are you doing?
I'm good, Mike. Hey, everybody, we're the first, the last, the Nerdom. We're here to talk about Fire and Ice,
Yes.
the 1983 animated movie. Um, now, this is a little bit of a take two. We had some technical issues, so if you saw it while it was still up previously, we were having some audio issues. So yeah, we're gonna talk about the movie's so good we could talk about it twice, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Had a little snafu there, but got back on track here. I don't know what happened to the audio, but I definitely
hmm
am learning from that mistake. Everything I had tested these new had this earbuds earlier in the day and da 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 da, and everything was good. It was good enough to do this because obviously I work and I have to do meetings and whatnot, and you have to be able to be heard and seen. But in any case,
Right.
yeah, thanks for that intro, Tom. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
the second time Fire and Ice. The second time's not just as nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Last time we brought the ice. This time we're bringing the fire.
yeah. Absolutely. Yep. No, we had to use that fire and torch the other one, so it is what it is. But as
Yeah.
always, we are learning and growing every day. Every time we do this week after week, and we've been at this for legitimately you could say years.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true.
Just kind of
Yeah.
tipping over there into that, but as time grows. But in any case, yeah, great intro, Tom. We got Fire Nice here. But before we get to that, I want to take a moment to promote our ever-growing back catalog and humbly ask the audience if you would to please like, comment, subscribe, uh, get us going there. We're trying to get after 100 subscribers by the end of the year. We'll see how it goes, but we want to make good content, and more importantly, we want to hear from you, all the folks out there that may watch or listen to us, and if you have suggestions or whatnot. But as Tom was saying, yeah, we are going to be covering Fire and Ice, 1983, and what's this? What's this one about? If you could set the table for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been lately I've been getting into I go on little tears like I'm all in on horror or I'm all in on comic books for a time. I've been really big into fantasy and sword and sorcery. So yeah, anytime I get a chance to push forward that I will. And this one's a cult classic. It didn't do well when it first came out. We'll touch on that a little bit more later, but it's your basic story, fantasy story. There's an evil force and a good force. The evil force is the ice portion, and it's run by Necron, and he's trying to take over the world with his ice empire. And he's leading the charge with his subhumans, and then the good side is led by the leader of the fire, and caught in between are just various villages, and our main characters, Larn, who his village is destroyed. He's the only survivor, and he stumbles upon a kidnapping subplot with the princess Teegra, and he helps rescue her a few times. She keeps getting captured and rescued repeatedly in this movie. But yeah, and then we also have this character, dark character called Dark Wolf, who at first seems to be sort of maybe a villain character, but he turns out to be a good guy as well. And he seems to
Right.
be much kind of modeled after Conan the Barbarian, except he has like a Black Panther headdress over his head, which I think, Mike, you were going to try to recreate it with your cat, but didn't get
Yeah.
a chance to.
Yeah. We got it. We joined the Cat Owners Association, as it were, club,
hmm
as with a black cat, and she's a sweetheart. And every once in a while I see her, or she's asleep at my feet, or behind me, but
Hmm.
she's a sweetheart. But she's got those the jet black head and those yellow eyes that are famous for on black cats. And yeah, that
Hmm.
was the goal. I just it keeps escaping me to do that when I have my kiddos, and the
Hmm.
time is right. But in any case, yeah, it's very cool. Very and we discussed this before, but it still remains that it's very iconic.
Hmm.
And that's just kind of one character from I mean what I'm referring to is on the screen there if you are listening. I've got
Hmm.
the Just Watch video page where you can go see this movie at on all the streaming platforms. And it also has
Yeah.
little shortcuts to YouTube, and one of the thumbnail is that character that Thomas is talking about. Very
Yeah.
iconic, and that is just the tip of the iceberg for what to expect as far as art and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
quality that you get with the characters and it does remind me of a comic book, I will say, like kind of like come to life.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And when it first came out, a lot of the reviews described it as comic book like, and I remember Robert Ebert described it said it was much like a comic book, but and it would especially with how Princess Teegra is displayed in the movie. That would be of interest to a horny 12-year-old because she wears a bit of skimpy clothes. Now
yes,
the yeah. Now we also we try to mention where you could see this when we review a movie. But yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it. And looks like Apple TV if you have that, but you have to pay for that to rent. But it's also on YouTube. It looks like you can buy it on or buy it or rent it on YouTube. But there's some people that have uploaded it, and YouTube hasn't taken it down. So I don't know if how the copyright is on that or
yeah,
not. But there's ways to find it, and there's also an old DVD and Blu-ray. My DVDs in storage. I would have loved to kind of dug it out because it had a has a commentary track by one of the creators, Ralph Bakshi, on it, and I think you've got Bakshi's back catalog kind of pulled up.
yeah,
He's a famous animator. He did famously Fritz the Cat, which is an adult film. Well, I mean, I think it's rated X. But yeah, it's based off of R. Crumb's independent underground comic book of the same name, Fritz the Cat. Ralph also did the '60s Spider-Man cartoon, which I absolutely love. And he did the Lord of the Rings. So he has a big catalog of movies, animated movies, and his focus has always been on the weird, maybe the more adult sensibility. And I think Fire and Ice kind of bridged the gap of maybe it being kind of a comic book more kid oriented, but it also wanted to be sort of a macho sword and sorcery movie as well. With you have the muscular heroes with the damsel in distress who barely wears anything. So there's sort of a kind of a limbo there where maybe when it first came out, the parents were real keen on sending their kids off to see this movie that might have things in it that they don't want their kids to see. And then it also wasn't maybe adult enough for adults to really sink their teeth into. But it's found its home here as a cult classic. Again, Ralph is one of the co-creators. He paired up with his longtime friend Frank Frazetta, who's known for his Conan the Barbarian covers that he did for the paperbacks during the '60s and '70s. There's also the famous painting it did called the Death Dealer, which is kind of mimicked in this movie as well with the Dark Wolf. There's an image of him on the hill with an axe on a horse that keeps repeating a couple of times in the movie, and that's very much representative in the painting, the Death Dealer.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. The And also, you were mentioning that they were pushing ahead, pushing the boundaries too with how they created this, and not just
Hmm.
the artwork that is very unique to the creators therein. And we'll definitely get back into some of their ins and outs a little bit later in the show too, that's related. But this kind of made me fall in love with these guys, these fellas, for their artwork.
Yeah.
So well, I kind of just scrolled through haphazardly there on the Just Watch page there for Ralph Bakshi. But you
Hmm.
can see there's Cool World, which I completely forgot about.
Oh yeah.
There's
Hmm.
there's other classic kind of more GA things that but he always had my understanding is he's always kind of a little bit pushing the envelope like you were saying there.
Hmm.
So it's risque in some areas where it's a little bit more fluid, we'll call it that way,
Hmm.
than say like your other class, other kind of
Yeah.
animated, everything's artificial because all this stuff was based on actual real movement of actors.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, he did the way he did it. This is one of his most action-packed movies. So they used rotoscope like he did with Lord of the Rings. And for you guys out there that don't know what rotoscope is basically they film actors acting out the parts and everything and action, and they use stuntmen and whatnot. It's kind of weird seeing when you're looking through the credits at the end of the movie, see in an animated movie and see stuntmen, it's like what the heck? But they
Sure.
actually filmed all of that, and then what the artists did is they took those individual um, frames of the film and then traced over it.
Okay.
So they actually got the action and the physics of it just right. So it's all the action where the characters are rolling and tumbling and stuff. There's a weight to it that you see in there as
Yeah, I'm
Mike
gonna
was
play
kind of
some of
playing
that
a little
role.
bit of it.
Yeah, go
Whereas
ahead.
a lot of times traditional animation, uh, there can tend to be maybe a little bit of floating aspect to it. The gravity isn't really defined to everyday standards. There's sort of like a floaty feel to it. Whereas in this movie, with it being real actors doing real things, there's a bit of a weight to it. You can tell when someone's tumbling, it looks real, even though it's animated. There's that realness to it. And when Princess Teegra's bouncing around in all her glory, scantily clad, you definitely see it, and I'm sure the artist kind of paid close attention to getting her right as well.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just that. I mean, it's not, and not being lurid here, but
Oh yeah,
if
absolutely.
there is motion, that's the way your eye works. Your eye is
Hmm.
your brain is constantly looking for that motion, and when you see it, and of course you're naturally programmed to see like a human silhouette or so. It's going to pop
Hmm.
out from the
Hmm.
background, and that's exactly what
Yep.
happens throughout all of this. And
Yeah.
it is really is a special treat. I mean. We'll get
Yeah.
into the quality, but this one is
Hmm.
just one that, and I think in my notes for the way that it came out, it was the content, the violence and whatnot had to be trimmed down, censored a
Hmm.
little bit, and then just for ratings for ratings to
Hmm.
make the and it's PG-13, right?
No, PG. I don't
No,
think
PG.
PG-13
Excuse
had
me. Yeah,
happened
PG.
yet.
It's good. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, PG. So that you're already talking about like a lot of any kind of edginess that we take for granted nowadays. To be honest, anyway,
Right. Absolutely.
this was not the case for this. And then the other thing
Yeah.
that went against it was the distribution. It just wasn't shown on enough screens. It
Hmm.
was never going to give it a chance to even try to crack out to be more open. But and we had this conversation a little bit earlier too, which was we both thought that in another era this could have been a hit, and maybe or at least made some kind of money, for sure. But
Yeah. Yeah. That nerd culture isn't the same as it is today. Today we celebrate various artists. artists are, kind of name recognition is there.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Frank Frazetta, he's known today as the Conan guy, the guy who makes,
It's true.
these sword and sorcery, beautiful paintings and whatnot. So if today, Ralph Bakshi, Frank Frazetta movie was coming out today, and they were, unfortunately Frank isn't with us anymore. But
No.
if he was here making this movie, there would be an excitement. All the press, all the YouTube, shows online would be talking about it. Whereas it came out, obviously the quality and the work that they made helped make the movie get made, but that wasn't the forefront back in that day. All it was this animated movie is coming out, and it was kind of lived and died on its own merits, or like Mike said, the distribution or lack thereof. But yeah, and also it doesn't stop with Ralph and Frank.
No, not at all.
The writers of the script were Roy Thomas and Gary Conway, which if you're a Marvel nerd, Marvel Comics nerd, you'd know that Roy Thomas famously was Stan Lee's protege, who took over as editor-in-chief when Stan Lee stepped down from that role. And Roy famously brought Conan the Barbarian to Marvel Comics, and revitalized Conan as a property along with the paperbacks at the time, and which led to the Conan movie. And he kind of had a hand in writing some of the drafts, or helping with Conan getting up and running as a movie. And then he also wrote the script to Conan the Destroyer, the sequel to Conan, with Gary Conway. And Roy Thomas also brought Star Wars to Marvel Comics as well. So and he wrote and adapted, the Conan stories for the first few years at Marvel. In fact, Marvel was the one that actually started calling Conan the Barbarian. Before then, that phrase, Robert E. Howard never used that as a moniker. So that's how they helped brand Conan. So Roy has a long history with sword and sorcery. So whenever the fact that he wrote that with Gary Conway kind of lends kind of cred to the to the movie. Also, some of the painters, the background painters, are of note as well. Maybe not when it was made, but Thomas Kinkade and James Gurney worked on the backgrounds, and Thomas Kinkade has since made a big name for himself as kind of pastoral kind of settings of paintings. If you see one of them that like Mike's showing on the screen, they're very recognizable. People have seen those. And James Gurney, he later on did Dinotopia, which is the storybooks with his paintings about dinosaurs. I've never read those, but they were like huge for a time there. And maybe they are still huge. I don't know. But yeah, they were kind of big after a while. And then also a layout artist for the movie was Peter Chung, who later on went on to make Xeon Flux on MTV. And then he was working at Disney at the time, and kind of worked on his off hours on this movie just because he loved Ralph Bakshi and Frank Frazetta and wanted to be involved in this. So yeah, there's a lot of creative people, creative geniuses, I would say, that worked on this. And yeah, it's not a perfect movie, but it's great for what it is. It's kind of has that iconic flair to it with the art and the action, and the story may not be as strong. And I think it may be kind of due to the editing. Roy Thomas said that the script was trimmed down quite a bit because there's a lot of backstory and back character information that kind of got trimmed down, like the character motivation and whatnot, kind of got trimmed down to make it hour and 20-minute movie full of action. So a lot of what let the characters breathe was kind of trimmed down. So you've got a serviceable script at that point that doesn't have a whole lot of flair. Except when it comes to the villain, I think I really love the scenes with Necron in it. He is he has very much a presence to him, and a lot of his dialogue, like "I spit on your peace, princess." That was kind of a nice line that he did, and I spit on you, and so yeah, and that's due to obviously the voice actor, and I, I think there's some of the voice actors um, went back in and redubbed. I know there was like a for the action. There was one actor, and sometimes they did the vocals, but sometimes there was a different person that went in and kind of overdubbed their lines. But yeah, there was some there wasn't a whole lot of bad acting in it. I don't remember any bad. A lot of times in animation, there's maybe one or two actors there that really stand out as as being bad, but I think they did a fairly good job with
Yeah,
the acting.
I agree. They it was engaging and entertaining. That's the kind of the thing that you look for. Yeah, you can see there's some kind of foibles a little bit here and there, but for the most part, and I think
Hmm.
overall, I would be more in line with this Just Watch rating than the IMDb rating. I think the IMDb rating tends to be different than reality, in my
Hmm.
opinion. But according to my taste, like, obviously this is just my view.
Yeah.
But I'd put it up to not 6.5. It's a solid
Right.
7, on maybe on the
Yeah.
low end, and then maybe being generous, or
Yeah.
earned is 7.5 maybe.
Hmm.
That might be stretching a little bit, but
Hmm.
7.4, whatever,
Yeah.
with the nerds and the decibels, or
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
decibel points,
Yeah. I also
decimal
read.
points. Good grief.
Yeah. I also read that Frank Frazetta, he's sort of like a man's man, which you can kind of see with his strong portrayals of Conan and various things. And yeah, that's one of his paintings up there in the upper left there. And he very very famous paintings there. They're very
That is
very mood
famous.
driven, and yeah, he's sort of like the man's man, and he was very much on the set when they were filming the live action along with Ralph, and they said that he frustrated the stuntmen because he was very particular on how the subhumans would move and act and would
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
kept correcting them over and over, and then it bled over into when they started animating it. They said that some of the animators would actually faint when he would show up because they were kind of worried about what he was going to say or critique on them. They were so kind of overwhelmed with his presence, which yeah, he does sound like a larger than life character, and I've heard some other stories about people's fans interacting with him where he was a bit gruff, and yeah, I don't know. In the age of social media, I'm kind of curious how he would be, how he would have acted. But yeah, people could be themselves, maybe before social media, and
Yeah,
not get dinged as much.
yeah. Well, it's a different world, but and for all we know, he could have, he could have just never gotten on.
Right.
But of course, now everybody's a prima donna and on Twitter, so your mileage may vary. But yeah, I could understand because usually it's the ones that are more gifted that have quirks, or they're super specific and precise on certain things, and sometimes that bleeds over into real life, sometimes not. But
Yeah.
for all it is, he's no longer with us, so we'll never
Yeah.
know, obviously.
Right.
But his
No.
artwork and whatnot live on, and we definitely
Yep.
are, hopefully, do our little small humble honoring of that, while we cover some of
Yeah.
these things. And I have no doubt that
Yeah.
I think we both agreed offline, we're definitely into the quick fast lane for maybe going back to him, or Ralph Bakshi's back catalog and pulling that in and making that a show. I have no doubt that'll
Yeah.
happen. But this sword and
Yeah.
sorcery continues in our sword and sorcery line, our theme when we cover that. We've
Yeah.
covered numerous Conan earlier,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah, and
awesome.
his daughters and granddaughters are keeping Frazetta's name alive. They call themselves the Frazetta Girls, and they've introduced a couple of different comic book lines currently that are out. That I think one of them's called Death Dealers, I believe. But yeah. So if you're kind of interested, there's those out there. Ralph Bakshi, I always have trouble with his name, but he kind of stepped away from movies. He never really had a huge hit, from my knowledge, that really kind of hit with the audiences, unfortunately. But his style and what he did has had influence over animators. He did after this movie, he did a few more, and he when he first got into animating, he was working on a TV series, like I said, the Spider-Man movie or series, and
Mhm.
then after he did his movies, he went back to animated series and did a one of the revivals of Mighty Mouse, which at that time was one of the first times that John Kay got to work on animating, and kind of Ralph kind of brought him under his wing, and John Kay's famously went on to make Ren and Stimpy. So,
Yep.
and then John Kay has kind of gotten his own little controversy lately, but yeah, like Mike was saying, artists are complicated people. So,
Yeah, I definitely remember. Well, see, and this is the beautiful thing here because this is like how it's just like not 6 degrees of separation here, but kind of like where you're anything things that you like or the characteristics therein and that you've seen before growing up, and you might not have known it. Now you're kind of connecting the dots, just like this Mighty Mouse. I remember watching that, not
hmm
necessarily when it came out, but years later in the '90s
hmm
when I was a little bit older,
hmm
and when it was wherever you could find it. And then Ren
hmm
and Stimpy also, I was a big fan of Ren and Stimpy. I remember that. That was
hmm
classic. Even my
yeah.
dad, and that's kind of the funny thing too, because there is a certain still amount of edginess to his work. And
hmm
it's refreshing.
hmm
And it's
Yeah.
I'm totally here for it. Like it's like
Absolutely.
no wonder I like it.
Yeah, yeah, and now he's since kind of retired from doing animation and has got back into painting, and he sells his paintings on eBay. Maybe a little too rich for Mike and I's taste, but he's also
Oh yeah, I can do
on.
that.
He does have a Facebook account. I don't. It seems like I think a lot of people who have Facebook accounts that are famous have like social media people that run it, but it looks like he does actually run his own Facebook because he'll
Right,
post stuff, but
right on.
things from the past, kind of um, buried treasures, like how maybe a sketch that he did for a movie or whatnot. He'll post that up and give a little history about it. So. A lot of people like to make fun of Facebook, but there's some good stuff on there as well. So, if you have Facebook, you kind of check him out there, maybe give him a follow. I follow him. But yeah, he has an art page with all of his social media and various things on there. So yeah, if you have some thousands of dollars burning a hole in your pocket, you could maybe throw it down on some art. Hey, art doesn't tend to depreciate. It usually, unlike NFTs, they tend to increase in value when you have your physical art.
Yeah, maybe one day NFTs will find a thing aside from being a joke or a punchline to a joke
hmm
for this era or Bitcoin or whatever. There's the
Yeah.
joke is you ever go to a bar, there's always like the crypto bro that, hey, you know about this coin? But
Yeah.
I would much rather have art. Um, I'm not like a super like, but for the super fans out there, they definitely. I mean, how cool is that? You can actually go and get something he made. That's
hmm
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very very cool. Like I could see that being if you get more in down the hole of it, then
Mhm.
you get a hold of that, and it's just never going to lose value. And of course, that's not something that you would necessarily buy to collect, maybe. But I don't know. I'm not the collector type, so what would I know?
Yeah.
It's beyond
Yeah.
my grasp. But if you are out there and you are a collector and you do collect things like that, we'd love to hear from you. Might as well throw
Yeah.
that out there.
Oh yeah,
uh,
absolutely. And I have my some prints. Like I got a nice art piece for Planet of the Apes. So,
yep.
yep. And I like physical media, physical as far as comic books and movies and whatnot. Now, speaking of comic books, one of the reasons why it came to my mind to talk about Fire and Ice this week is because last week they came out with a Fire and Ice comic book. Dynamite's has bought the rights to Fire and Ice, so they're planning on some prequels, some sequels, and the current comic book is written by Bill Willingham, and the art by Leonardo Manco.
Mm,
And it's I've read the first issue. I really enjoyed it. It seems like a kind of a retelling of Fire and Ice, with some added detail and whatnot. And there's a bit of controversy because Roy Thomas and Gary Conway are still alive, and they actually again wrote the screenplay for the movie.
right.
And Roy's a little bit miffed that they didn't reach out to him to write the comic book. And there's a little bit of confusion because the manager of Dynamite, looks like John Semino, he states in this article that we've got pulled up here that Roy actually reached out to him when it was first announced that they were doing the comic book, and said that he could provide the original script and whatnot for helping making the comic book. So he thought maybe he was kind of confused that he thought the lines of communication were already open.
Right.
But he said that maybe to mend fences, saying that he hopes to be able to work with him in the future. But in Roy, he does say that the script had a lot more detail in it that wasn't presented in the movie, just for time's sake and to make a short animated feature. So yeah, but Bill's kind of taking it under his wing, and he says that he's a huge fan of both Ralph Bakshi and Frank Frazetta, and loves the movie. And you could tell by the writing of the comic book, you could tell that it's written by someone that knows this movie and the characters really well, and is doing a fun kind of
Right.
take on it. And Bill Willingham's no stranger to fantasy. He did the big run of Fables for DC, which is a fantasy comic book dealing with the fantasy characters like Sleeping Beauty and Pinocchio. He actually made have this epic fantasy story with these characters that was very emotional and action packed and very interesting. Who would have thought to maybe make Geppetto as this ultimate evil, but Bill Willingham did. So I have a good faith in his run on Fire and Ice. And the first issue's very good indication of where it's headed. And I recommend it if you guys haven't read it yet and are a fan of Fire and Ice, and you were brought to this podcast for us talking about the movie. Here's something new that you can enjoy with these characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And the artwork is it's its own. It stands on its own right. It's
Hmm.
good, very good, very
Yeah.
reminiscent of that. Very there. It's is originally you can go, and like you were saying, the comic book kind of goes into and covers quite a bit more of the story and the characters and therein than you
Hmm.
get with the first introduction with the movie.
Yep.
I am definitely looking forward to flipping through this here in a little
Hmm.
bit. It's definitely joined the short list for me to catch
Yeah.
up on.
Yeah, and yeah, it's right now coming out as single issues, and some people like to wait till the graphic novel, which collects all of the issues together in a nice little package. And I have to say, it's really nice to read a good graphic novel, because you got the whole story there. But if you can't wait and you need the issues, again, those are coming out. I believe it's monthly,
Right.
so you can grab those. And Leonardo Manco, I kind of skipped over him and started talking about Bill Willingham, the writer. Leonardo, the artist, is really good. He's a great artist, and he's kind of drawing it in the style it's that Frank Frazetta has. So it's not a total aping. It's his style plus Frank Frazetta's, which makes it a very interesting mix. It's kind of has kind of that painted look to it. But yeah, it's and you can tell that he's watched the movie, and he's recreating that vegetation, that weird alien vegetation that's in the movie. That's another thing. The visuals in the movie and the kind of the landscapes are kind of unique and unto itself. Very, very interesting looking.
Right. Yeah, the artwork you and the film begs you. It just you want to see more of it, in my opinion.
Hmm.
And it also kind of gives you that taste of that rotoscoping. That
Yeah.
like I said, like Cool World, yeah, that one. Then I'm not as familiar with Franz the Cat. Actually, I'm not familiar with it at all. But
Uh-huh.
definitely Mighty Mouse and the other ones that we kind of
Hmm.
talked about a little bit ago,
Yeah.
before then. But
Yeah.
yeah, and
Absolutely.
I wanted to to kind of do it justice here. That's what I had this. That's what I wanted to do. You might want to. This is the thing. So if we see what we see, not a big deal.
Right.
But this is art.
Yeah.
This is very much
Hmm.
art, and art is amazing and fluid and
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. And we
kinetic.
were talking. Absolutely. Yeah. No, we were talking about some of the script and whatnot, and maybe it's not as you know, the it does play upon kind of archetypes, but they do kind of twist it a little bit. Like say with Princess Teegra, she does get kidnapped and rescued, but sometimes she rescues herself. She
It's
does
not a
actually,
pushover. Not
yeah,
not
yeah,
not a
she
pushover.
does hold her own a little bit. She does fight with the subhumans and actually kills some of them, and is able to hide from them and kind of use her intellect to kind of get away from them. And then also with Necron, he has a mother, overbearing mother,
Mm,
who thinks she knows what's best for him. So the plot to kidnap Princess Tigra's her plot, and she didn't let Necron know about it. So she presents Necron with this princess, with the thought of him marrying her and kind of uniting the two kingdoms of fire and ice. And he wants nothing to do with it. He a lot of times in these movies, the bad guy is a little bit of a pervert, a little bit of a lecherous kind of guy, and
right.
he doesn't really want anything to do with her. He
Nope.
throws her, he keeps her alive, but throws her in the pit with all these dead people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Well, yeah. Necron's mother, Queen Juliana.
Juliana, yeah.
Yeah, Jesus, Juliana. Yeah, good grief. Oh man. But yeah, no. The story is in it, and it's I'm not gonna say a mile a minute, but it's
Yeah.
like you don't have to wait long. And then
Yeah.
there's kind of like it's kind of a football game too, a little bit. That's what
Yeah.
your description of it last time we talked about it was like.
Mhm.
Kind of going back and forth here and there. Where's the football,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
to speak?
Yeah. Yeah, and Necron, he's more fascinated by the main character in it, Larn. He's when he Larn tries to kill him, he stops that, but then he wants to duel Larn, and I I kind of picked up on maybe some sexual tension coming from maybe Necron for Larn. Maybe it's all in my head canon or not. But you could watch it and see if you spot any of that, which I just kind of find kind of fascinating. Um, Now, everybody's kind of scantily clad. Even the old guy that's the leader of the fire team. He has a little skirt showing off his legs. So there's a
Right.
lot of skin in the movie.
Yeah, no, that well, and the whole point is that goes with the world. It's not just like skin
Hmm.
for skin's sake. It is. I mean,
Right.
come on, come on, folks. Like we're in we're in the jungle here, and this is like some
Mhm.
you know thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
Kind of other alter world or something like that,
Mhm.
as it were. For they're not driving and having car chases, so it kind of
Yeah.
fits.
Yeah, and one of my favorite scenes is this right here, where the subhumans are invading Princess Teegra's sanctuary, climbing through the window. That kind of spotlights the rotoscoping with them physically
Just
climbing through the window. It kind of goes into slow motion when they were kind of coming through the window, and Teegra kind of swinging her body over in reaction. It's kind of slow
right.
motion, and it just kind of spotlights what rotoscoping can do. It's sort of like the forefather of what is done today with CGI, with real actors with the little dots on their head and whatnot. Now this is more. I think both of them are very time consuming because you're tracing over and redoing
Yeah, every
all of
frame. Yeah, frame by
every
frame.
frame.
Right.
Absolutely. So
Yeah,
that's very time consuming.
and this kind of random photo that we kind of really is indicative of the entire movie, from the
Hmm.
lighting to the foreground to the background to obviously the characters moving around it. This you can tell like what time of day it is, so to speak,
Hmm.
what night. And I love that. I just love and the subtle hints of the
Hmm.
color really
Yeah.
can kind of pop, even though it's kind of a more it just is just I just really fell in love with the artwork and all the way around.
Yeah. Yeah. If we
Especially the
were
more
going
that
to
we started
do,
drilling into it.
yeah, yeah, if we were going to do like a deep dive and kind of an analysis of a scene, that would for a movie that for this movie, I would use that definitely that scene to
Absolutely.
kind of break it down because you can see by the princess's her companion. She's going to confront the subhuman. You could see just the tension in her body.
Right.
Um, just animator kind of freestyling it wouldn't get that body tension quite right, or it'd be kind of difficult to do. And then the princess kind of backing up on the chair and kind of trepidation. You really get that whole the body and how it's reacting in that scene, and that just shows you kind of what rotoscoping can do. And like you were saying, the whole painted background is beautifully done, very meticulous, with the eye for detail and coloring and whatnot. It just really looks amazing. And so maybe what it lacks in maybe story development, it more makes up for in visuals and kind of the emotion to the scene.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, I guess it jumped out of spot there.
And
Sorry, I was
also,
trying to.
I want to spotlight. There are some behind the scenes stuff that are on YouTube. I kind of watched that since I
Cool.
didn't have my DVD ready, and there are some footage that Ralph Bakshi kind of kept of the actual actors acting. So you can find some of that online on YouTube to kind of watch if you're kind of curious what it looked like before they they traced over it. There is some shots, and one of the shots that they have is of the actress that plays Princess Tigra, kind of turning in her chair, seeing the subhumans.
Yeah, I was gonna. I found one of those. If the computer would
Those,
cooperate here.
yeah, those pesky computers that don't
Yeah, I tell
always
you
want
what.
to.
Tell you what. I've learned
And
learned
yeah.
learned lessons on that one. Yeah, no. The what I was trying to while this does whatever it is and it catches up, then it lets me do this again. Or I can go back into this web page here and go and just be patient with it because it's yeah, whatever. Eventually it'll come back up, but yeah, I just wanted to say like it was just a shot of the actor, real life actors kind of doing here on the IMDb page as we were
Mm-hmm.
trolling through the photos there, looking at scenes and the
Yep.
artwork
Oh
up
yeah.
front.
Uh-huh.
Um, good way to kind of bring it up. But I think we're probably getting toward the end here. But
Yep.
in any case, well, what is going on with that thing? Oh, I don't know. So weird. Who knows? I don't know. But in any case,
Yeah.
yeah. Actually let me go back. Let me find that because I really
Okay.
it really does it justice to like what this is, and I
Mm-hmm.
really I selfishly do kind of want it to be remade, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time I kind of don't because I don't know. You don't kind of know if they're going to have too many modern sensibilities impinged on this thing, and whatnot.
Yeah.
Hopefully not, but in any case,
Yeah. Oh yeah, and you made me think that there was some uh Robert Rodriguez was wanting to do a live action version of Fire and Ice in 2010, and as
right,
from the Wikipedia page, it says that Sony Pictures bought the rights to it in 2014 and was going to go ahead with the film directed by Robert Rodriguez. But it looks like that's the last we heard of that. So
right.
either it's gone into development hell, or as they say, or maybe people maybe Robert Rodriguez has gone on to do something different and maybe a loop back around for this. I don't know how long Sony had the rights to it. It might be not be for 10 years, so maybe that's back up in the you know
You know,
and maybe that's why Dynamite Entertainment was able to get a hold of the rights for the comic book.
I
So yeah, I
will
don't
say,
know where the film rights are at.
yeah, I would say though, in praise of Sony, they definitely have a wide catalog of IP, and they've been nothing but successful, especially in their limited approach. Whereas other big companies like Disney or Warner Brothers might have flooded the market with more Disney than Warner Brothers or Universal
Hmm.
even. They're not flooding the market with this stuff, overloading people.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm sure
Right.
wait 5 years and see if they're on the other receiving end of like a flood of
Hmm.
whatever new things are out there because there's out there a lot, but
Hmm.
in any case, like I would be curious to see. So if you know out there, or if you're an industry insider, and would like to whisper in our ear, we will absolutely entertain that.
Hmm.
We're
Yeah.
always good to have that. Or if it's
Hmm.
even something that you could talk about or opine on,
Hmm.
yeah, sure, why not? We'll bring you on board and see
Hmm.
what's what. But I have a feeling this isn't going to be the last of our of our seeing sword and sorcery flicks. I'm definitely
Hmm.
excited with this. As I am with other things that I get to see and enjoy with you as my guide here. uh,
Absolutely. And just to balance things out, we did our sword and sorcery show here with Fire and Ice, kind of a man's man kind of movie, kind of action oriented. And then we are other series that we do is called Nerding Out, and we're going to be talking about Barbie on that. So we're going to find our feminine side and embrace Barbie. Not anything pervy. We're just hanging out with Barbie. So yeah.
yep.
So we got the duality, the balance here this week, with Fire and Ice and Barbie.
Yep. Yep. And
And and a nod to Oppenheimer.
yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah, and I will just go on record as having a very strong positive opinion of the Barbie movie, as it were. And if you want to hear more, we'd love to have you here, and that show will be breaking on Friday.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Be a part of the conversation.
absolutely, and then one of these days here, probably soon, in the next few weeks or so, we'll figure out the legs for Nerding Out because the intention for that is to really be a live show
Yeah.
down the line, but soon. But as we get going forward here, and we'll also be look forward to other future videos coming up, where we'll be covering some physical media stuff more.
Hmm.
And I think with the strike happening and all this stuff going on, I think that you're going to see a resurgence of folks kind of going back to wanting some kind of physical media because it's just something about that never um, that you can't delete. You don't have to log in anywhere. You don't have to look at a screen. It's kind of
Right.
nice to have that. I know as I get older that this is a little bit me becoming an old man, but I definitely I enjoy that feel. I'm one of the
Yeah.
weirdos that still likes to have a newspaper delivered every day, well, 6 days a week or so, because I enjoy that. I don't read it all the time, but you know what?
Mhm.
I get it. Kind of get it. Like, I see my dad
Yep.
in the morning with his paper once in a while. He didn't do it all the time, but like once in a while, if we were on vacation or something, or kind of just him and me trip, I always remember he'd always get the paper, and had that physical kind of physical habit or what I don't know. There's a fancier word
Mhm.
for it, but there's just something about physical media. But
Yep.
and
Yeah.
do you know if speaking of that, because you're kind of our physical media king here,
Mhm.
or resident expert in house. Do
Uh-huh.
you know if there has been any kind of special releases or news as such for, kind of deeper level cut of that movie on physical media at all that you're aware of, or has that just kind of been like a hope and a dream and a prayer of the
Well,
of the
there's
of the faithful?
of the early 2000s, they released a
Okay,
special DVD collector's edition of it. Like I said, with the commentary track by Ralph and a documentary about Frank Frazetta on it.
right.
I have it in in storage, and in fact, when that DVD came out, that's when I first found out about the movie. I was one of the unfortunate few that kind of missed it first time around in '83. I was around during that time, but it just kind of disappeared, and I guess went quietly to the shelves of the video stores, and I just maybe overlooked it. And yeah, so when it came out on DVD, promoting it as a Ralph Bakshi movie with Frank Frazetta, Roy Thomas, and Gary Conway, I went crazy over it and got it, and was kind of surprised I'd never heard about it previous to that. And then later on, they did do a Blu-ray release of it, so it's in HD. But yeah, there's I haven't heard of any 4K remaster of it with maybe some of the footage added back in, or some behind the scenes things. But yeah, that would
Missed
be
opportunity.
yeah, yeah. That's it's sort of that balance of there's a lot of the heavy weights being lifted by these boutique you companies that will get the rights to certain movies from companies and do these extra special deluxe editions. We go a little bit more in detail on our nerding out episode, talking about physical media. But yeah, it's they're kind of carrying the torch for physical media, and yeah, it's a shame that more and more companies are kind of going towards more streaming services, because your content, even if you quote unquote buy it on streaming, say if you buy it from Apple TV or whatnot, you're kind of beholden to them hanging around. 10, 20 years ago, if you told me Sears was going to disappear, I'd hey, you're crazy. So
Hmm.
saying, Apple might disappear in 10 years, and where's your movie? All your movies that you bought on digitally. So yeah, in fact, I think it wasn't. Maybe it was Vudu, or one of those streaming services, kind of where you would buy movies, disappeared, and I believe there was kind of confusion, or some people lost movies, or something like that. I
Yeah,
would have to kind of research it a little bit, but yeah,
yeah, of
when you
course.
have the physical media, as long as you don't lose it, you're not going to actually lose it.
Yeah, the thing is like when you buy a streaming right to a movie, for at a zero on whatever you're like, whatever, 14
Hmm.
bucks, 20 bucks, whatever, sometimes you have $5, $6 on sale for
Hmm.
some new movie that's out that's related to the thing. But yeah, you're all you're doing is just doing you're agreeing to a long-term rental. That's all you're doing, and
Yep.
that's fine, but there's for the nerds out there who have their own media libraries and they do their own physical disc, or by other means, and they have a like a Plex server or something like that. That's always always bespoke for certain kind of personal catalog things that you like to revisit occasionally. I know you have your favorites, and I do for me, and it just kind of depends on what phase I'm in or what time of year. But yeah, no, this was a great, great catch. And we'd love for you guys to let us know out there what your
Yep.
thoughts are on this, or have you seen it already? How old were you when you saw it? That'd be fun to hear too.
Yep.
Because this is
And
definitely we continue to kind of roll through the 80s here.
yeah, that's the bounty is plentiful when it comes to the 80s and cool cult movies. Yeah, and if you have your favorite sword and sorcery movie that we haven't covered yet, let us know, because we did cover Conan the Barbarian a few months back. So if you are thirsting for more of our content and you want to hear us talk about more sword and sorcery stuff, pull up the Conan video. And yeah, no, we have a wonderful back catalog of various things you can kind of go through. If your tastes are as eclectic as ours, I'm sure you might find some more videos to take a look at.
Absolutely, yeah. We've covered quite a few. Quite a few this year have landed in my favorite catalog, little scrapbook media,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak, that are just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And that will continue on next week. We have a very special surprise for the audience that I know I'm really looking forward to continue our theme of the 80s as we go through, and sci-fi and whatnot, as we bump from fantasy over to perhaps we go sci-fi next, perhaps we go to something else, but always here for you. And listen, and if you could like and subscribe and share out, even better, or give us a shout out somewhere, Facebook or Twitter. Thomas is out there on Twitter with our stuff. We'd love to hear from you. But in any case, I think we're rolling up to the end. What do you think? Anything else
Yep.
we covered or didn't cover? Or...
No, I think we got it. Yeah, I think I was just kind of just a one stray thought I was thinking about is one plus for this movie is there's no little scrappy little character. There's no Baby Yoda or little creature that kind of wacky little creature. It seems like in all these kind of fantasy type movies, there's always sort of like that annoying kind of little character that's sort of maybe a kind of a sidekick to the hero. And no, the sidekick to the hero in this one's Dark Wolf, which is this badass Conan like guy. So yeah, that's
Iconic.
a definite plus for this movie.
Yeah, and I just wanted to kind of roll back into that real quick, the female protagonists are attached to the protagonist. They had a air of quality that we are sorely lacking in some things, and sadly today. Hopefully that changes, but yeah, the way that I think we could learn a lot from, or the writers and whatnot could learn a lot from and in the studios too, for like what works and what does not. But in any case, I've been Mike.
And I'm Thomas.
We'll see you.